everyone. We're now live at the seminars for the first annual New England Hip Hop Awards weekend. We got 4 different seminars, everything from music licensing, publishing. The second one's digital marketing. The third one is going to teach artists how to book and manage their own tours. And the fourth one is going to go into how to monetize your career. I mean, this is really something we want to do yearly. Big shout out to Alex NEX Videos for doing this with me, sitting next to me producing all this. Cloud9 for letting us use the venue. So many more people. I don't want to sit here thanking people for looking out. We'll put it in the text later. But yeah, look, we're going to get right into it. The first seminar is music licensing, synchronization, and publishing. And I mean, make sure you share this with other artists too. And I mean, send them the link to get this, because you're gonna see there's gonna be a lot of useful information. So we're gonna kick this off with I have 2 other people doing this seminar with me. Schwartz, who and he's gonna explain what he does, and then we got young RJ from the legendary Slum Village as well.
Hi everybody, my name is Schwartz. I am the CEO founder of WhoMag Multimedia. WhoMag Multimedia is a multimedia company that we started back in 2002. We launched our first website, WhoMag.net, 2002, which was 15 years ago. Our first DVD magazine, 2005. We broke into the Walmarts and Targets, first one to do that. And in 2007, we launched WhoMag.TV. WhoMag.TV is the biggest independent hip-hop TV show in the world. We reach 500 million households in every single country you can imagine on broadcast and satellite and smart TVs. Every major hip-hop artist has been on our show. We also have our channel, WhoMag Multimedia and IFameTV. Both are available on Apple TV and Roku. We were the first hip-hop channel on Roku. Also, you can download WhoMag Multimedia on your cell phone. Just pick up your cell phone, go into the App Store or Google Play Store, whatever you have, and look for WhoMag, W-H-O, !MAG, WhoMag Multimedia. Download our app, check out our content. I also own WhoMag Distribution. I have 300 artists signed to my distribution company. My deal is with Sony Orchard, and we've been around since 2010. 2 #1 Billboard albums and a lot of other big charting albums as well too. So that is Schwartz.
Yo, what up? This young RJ, and I just want to send out a special shout out to the New England Hip Hop Awards. What up, though? 313 in the house, baby. All right, peace.
So basically, a composition.
Alright, so the first one we're going to do for this is the basic difference between publisher share and writer share. Come to Rob.
So basically, a composition has 2 different sides to it. One is the writer side, one is the publisher side. So when you write music, you actually own both shares. As the writer, you maintain the writers, but you can actually license out the publishing to a publishing company. Now, a publishing company, what they can do, they take the rights to your music and they try to shop it. Either shop it to another artist or, someone else so you can make money. They don't make money unless you do. So it's not like they're taking something and just sitting on it. If they take it, they're supposed to promote it. Otherwise, they won't make their share. So it's really important. You want to maintain as much publishing as possible. So if you do go to a publishing company, make sure you try to negotiate to keep the biggest piece of the pie. Publishing is something pretty much tangible. It's something that you own. It's something that wherever you go through life, it's a part of you. You always have that. If a song gets played 30 years later, you'll still make money. If somebody copies your song, you'll still make money. Which is really important to know, because say you write a song and somebody redoes it, you still own all that publishing. So it's very important to know the differences between the two. And if you do go with your publishing company, do your research. Make sure there's somebody hungry or someone that's been in existence for a while, and look at their success records. See how many artists are signed to their publishing company and see how many of them have been successful. Because maybe they pick up 1,000 artists but only been successful with 20 of them. You don't want to be a statistic. You want to be one that's been a really good sharpshooter with that and get your stuff signed to a deal.
Yo, what's up? This your man's young RJ, and the first question that I'm answering is, what is the difference between a writer and a publisher? Okay, well, the simplest way to break it down would be, if you have a song and you sit in the studio, you write that song completely by yourself, 100% of it. You would get 100% of the writer side, and you would get 100% of the publishing side. So how that breaks down is if you was getting $2 off a song, let's just use $2. And that's $1 off the writers, $1 off the publishing. And you decided to go do a publishing deal, you would still get that $1 off the writer's side. But now that you've done a publishing deal, that would cut down to like 50 cents, depending on what that deal is structured around. So it's just as simple as that, you know, and I think that's the easiest way to break it down.
All right, so our next question is going to be who pays what and how do you get your money?
Who pays what and how do you get your cash? Well, basically, what you have to understand is that there's different ways the money comes in. Media base. So pretty much media base is, it actually covers all the radio stations. So when your song gets played on radio, I mean, you may have heard the media base charts. Basically, every time your music is in FM or AM radio, it goes into a chart, the media base chart. And you get paid off of it, but here's the thing. You only get paid if you own publishing off of the song. So if you do a cover or something like that, you won't get paid. You have to have a piece of the publishing to get paid if it's on AM, FM radio. Now, you can also
then
sound exchange.
this.
Sound exchange is made more for the artist to protect the artist, while media base is more for, you know, they do more for the songwriters and the publishers. But sound exchange was created to help protect the artist. So if you do a cover, or say your stuff is on the internet, now you're going to get paid. Before you couldn't get paid unless it was on AM or FM because it wasn't a tracking system. But now, like if your stuff is in TV, like a cable channel opposed to a major channel, or if it's on Sirius XM opposed to AM, FM radio, or Spotify or Pandora or something like that. Well, actually more like Pandora, not Spotify. But anyway, what happens is they go through sound exchange. So you have to understand what sound exchange is. You should register. Now, if you have like I have a distribution company, we register your stuff for you through sound exchange if you need it. But if not, you need to make sure you know how to get your music registered. So it's not just going through a PRO, more like going against like an ASCAP or BMI, which you need to get an ASCAP, BMI, or SysAC, but you also need to make sure you get through sound exchange as well too, because there could be a lot of royalties that are left on the table. Now, picking a pro or a performance rights organization.
All right, third answer. What is sound exchange? How sound exchange works is basically yo, what's up? This your man's Young RJ, and the first question that I'm answering is what is the difference between a writer and a publisher? Okay, well, the simplest way to break it down would be if you have a song and you sit in the studio, you write that song completely by yourself, 100% of it. You would get 100% of the writer's side, and you would get 100% of the publishing side. So how that breaks down is if you was getting $2 off a song, let's just use $2. And that's $1 off the
Alright, sorry, minor technical difficulty. The next question is, what performance rights organization do you recommend to an artist? Like the ASCAP, BMI, and Schwartz is going to talk about this one a little bit.
Now, picking a pro or a performance rights organization, it depends on your taste. I've been with ASCAP now since, I could probably say, 2005. And I've made a lot of money off of ASCAP. They do a great job. So I'm very happy. I mean, some people are happy different places. It's the matter of your taste. And it doesn't, you know, it's up to you. I would just do your research. If you ask my personal opinion, I've always been ASCAP. And I like it's easy to file. And it's an easy system for me to use. And we have stuff, I had a lot of stuff played on MTV shows. They play a lot of my songs. So they've always been good with my payments. So I have always been an ASCAP member. So what's the difference?
So basically, I mean, if you guys aren't familiar with Rob, he also produces a show on Fuse TV as well. So he knows a lot about how to get placed on TV and such like that. So definitely take those pieces of advice. Our next question is going to be, what are sound exchange and media based, and why do I need them? So this is just more advice on recovering royalties, etc., making sure you get paid what you're supposed to throughout this
So
licensing.
what's the difference between like media based and sound exchange? Well, media based is important because of the fact that it tracks radio. It tracks US radio and Canada radio, and it just makes sure that the songs get played, it gets tracked, it gets charted, and you can kind of see the amount of plays that you get. Sound exchange is everything except radio, except terrestrial radio. So it's internet radio, it's television, it's sheet music, it's anything else to do with music besides AM/FM radio. If you're in a local cable show and they're registered and you get paid off of that, they would pay you. And the thing about sound exchange is it's growing. It's grown because there's more and more internet stations, there's more and more places that play music that aren't traditional places. So you'll see media based, you see the FM stations still out there, they'll still exist for a while. But more and more places are going with sound exchange, so it's very important that you do both.
All right. Third answer. What is sound exchange? How sound exchange works is basically for the artist and the label and musicians. You know, people that might have featured on a track, you know what I'm saying, and did some musicians type of work. It's not for the songwriter. So this is how it works. You might put a song out, they might put it in a podcast, they might stream it on YouTube or anywhere where they're supposed to. Well, what sound exchange does is collect the money for you, that percentage of what they pay out. So what they do is 45% goes to the artist, the feature artist, meaning whoever voice is on that track. If it's a group, they split that percentage up amongst the group, and then they pay out. 50% goes to the label. If you're not signed, then that means you putting it out yourself, that means you would retain that also. The other 5 goes to non-feature artists. So that could be like a musician, a horn player, or somebody where their talent was showcased on a song. So that's basically what sound exchange is. It's just a different way and a different payment. And it's for, not like I said before, not the songwriter, but it's for the artist whose voice is being featured on the song, label owner, and, you know, like a featured musician or something like that. So, peace.
Word. So definitely make sure you get registered for all that stuff. I mean, even if you're playing on a college radio station, I mean, you're still gonna get paid from that. So make sure you get hip. Our next question is going to be one of the most important too during this section. What are split sheets, and when did they apply to indie artists? So I'm going to start off talking about this. Anytime you're in the studio recording with people, you should have a split sheet with you, because you can deal with the business right then before you leave the studio. I mean, you don't have to deal with it later. It just simplifies everything, and I'll add a little bit more after a couple answers from our panelists.
What are split sheets? So it's very important that if you go to a studio session, you should always come with a split sheet. A lot of people wait till later to do it, but it's very important because that tells you exactly what percentage, who gets what. There's been instances where someone could be just sitting in a room and had not even contributed music, but when the song comes out, they could say, oh, I was in that session, I deserve to get a piece. Which is why it's very important that off the gate, as soon as you walk in there and the song is finished, you open that split sheet, let's fill this out now, don't wait. It basically says, say you do a collaboration and it's 2 people, sometimes you may do a 50-50, but sometimes people don't do it that way. Like when I was working with some people, when I was with Babyface's crew back in the day, some people, they were bigger known people than me, so if they brought me in a project, even though I may have wrote more of the song, they may just give me 20%, because it's they got the project, it wasn't me. So it depends, and that's why it's very important, because if not, I may have thought I got half the project, or, you know, and vice versa, someone else may think they may have the project. So wherever you go, make sure you carry split sheets with you. It's very important to do that.
Question number 2, what is a split sheet? Well, basically, a split sheet works like this. If you're in the studio collaborating with a couple people, a couple producers, or just one producer and a writer, just depending on what that outline of that studio session is, what happens is you sit in there and you create. And the purpose of the split sheet is to figure out who did what and the amount, so that way it's fair to everyone who contributed to the song. So for instance, you got a producer in there, and two producers, and they worked on the track together. They would get 25% apiece. You got 50% for the producer, 50% for the writer side. So they would split that however they want to work it out, whoever the bigger producer is, or however they structure it. And then if you have one writer who wrote the whole song, the hook and everything else, then he would retain the other 50%. So it just depends on the dynamics of the song. You got 50% for the writers, 50% for the producers of the song, and just a matter of who did what on it and what's fair. So that's why normally they do it right after a studio session. So that way it's fresh on the brain of who contributed to what. So, peace.
There's a lot of other factors to this too. Like, for example, like if you buy an exclusive beat, obviously you retain the whole percentage. But sometimes, I mean, if you're working with a high-name producer, you don't want to pay that huge fee. You want to do that split sheet with them. And if you're an upcoming artist, a lot of them are, I mean, going to be willing to do that. One great example from a producer standpoint is like the Panda beat, for example. That was bought for like $200 online. I mean, if that producer had even kept 10% for himself in split sheets, then he would have been a lot better. I mean, so I mean, you gotta have some sort of end business, even if you are selling, I mean, cheap exclusives. I mean, you decide what the business is. You decide what the terms are. So obviously people have to agree with you, but you can make it work for yourself on the front end and the back end. Give people deals, still make percentages. In regards to an artist, like not everyone has to get even splits. That's why you do split sheets. If Lil Wayne walks in a studio with a feature artist, he ain't giving him an even sheet. You know what I mean? If someone helps on a Drake song, I'm sure he ain't giving someone an even split on that single. So even as an independent artist, if you do 2/3 of the song, make sure your royalties reciprocate for that. If someone does just a 16, you might only give them 20% on that split sheet. So I mean, that's the best way to say that. So it's important to just discuss that anytime you're in the studio to make sure it works for you. So our next question to finish up this, the licensing, synchronization, and publishing. This is going to be the biggest question that artists have: is how should artists approach getting their music on TV, movies, and video games? We're going to go right.
So how should artists go about getting their music on video games, movies, stuff like that? Well, it's pretty strategic. I mean, there's first of all, there's companies out there. I know one is called like DMX is a big one, like the rapper's name DMX. But there's other companies as well that do placements. But one of my backdoor strategic things I tell people to do all the time is spend $150, become an IMDb Pro member. IMDb is the Internet Movie Database website where all the actors are. It's a free site, but IMDb Pro, you pay for it for $150 for the year, and you have access to all the people who write the movies, the producers, the directors, and the music supervisors. So now, like you can see, you can have a direct email to somebody out there that you can send music to that's in charge of putting music on that movie. Don't try to shoot for the big ones, because obviously they probably won't even care. But look for some of the small independent movies that are being shot and see if they have a music supervisor. If they don't, maybe hit the director up or the producer up and say, hey, you know, I read a synopsis of your movie. It was really cool. I got a song that may fit. Let me know if this fits. Boom. Maybe see the movie and write a special song to match the title of the song. Of the movie, who knows? But there's a lot of backdoor ways. You can't sit there and wait for it to happen, see what's not. You have to be really proactive and go out there and get it. So my suggestion, if you are trying to get your stuff placed in movies and TV, be as proactive as possible.
So that's going to be one of the biggest gems you guys get out of all the seminars, that IMDb Pro thing. I mean, you can go right in there. You can see what movies are in production, what video games are in production. And you just want to hit up the music director. I mean, they're not going to be tied to labels and stuff like that. They're someone that is going to probably check out the music if you send them a professional email, and they're going to review it. A lot of times with movies, they'll send, like, they'll list a kind of an outline of it, so you can send a song that might fit that, or you can even see a project you really like and do a custom song to it, and they might really like it. So IMDb Pro, like I said, it's like $150, and that's just really good for somebody that just wants to get out there into that digital world. I mean, the movies, the TVs, all that. I mean, it's a great way to do it. So we'll go into young RJ on this. Alright, so I'm just going to recap basically the music licensing, synchronization, and publishing stuff that we went over. I mean, you guys can watch this later podcast if you want. We broke down the difference between publisher's share and writer's share. Obviously, who pays what in terms of like the media base and all the getting radio royalties. The difference between ASCAP and BMI for performing rights organizations. A little bit, we broke more detail on sound exchange and media base. Something to really retain is split sheets. Make sure you have you can get a template. If you Google split sheet template, you can download that, just throw a couple copies in your trunk, and if you're at a random studio session, you can get it done right there. You don't want to get your paperwork done later because, I mean, people might argue. So I mean, also make sure you guys apply those to just, you can do that with producers. Like, for example, like a lot of times when I'm working with my clients, and it's a big client, I won't have to pay up front for the beat, because I'll give them a percentage, the producer, and since it's a big name producer, they'll help promote the record as well, and they make a lot more money in the end. Like the designer beat that I spoke about, Panda, I mean, imagine how much money he lost by just selling that as a $200 exclusive. Like, he lost a lot of money. And the biggest thing, I think, is what Rob told you guys later, how to get your music on TV, movies, and video games. The IMDb Pro thing. You can be your own manager, you can be your own label, you can be your own boss. Literally sit there for an hour, go through IMDb, make a list of 20 different projects you're interested in, and just work through that list and hit them all up. That's the best way to do it. I mean, it's like a 9 to 5. I mean, it's not all about just creating your music. You can have your manager do this, you can have a business advisor do it, but if you're waiting on the next man, then it's not going to happen. I mean, it can be someone on your team that can make it happen, and reach out to these contacts. But I mean, very few artists are actively doing this, reaching out to these. It's not like blogs where they're getting 100 submissions a day. So you actually have a better chance to get some of these dope placements than you do even getting on like a top website really easy on the main page, you know. So these projects are always looking for new music. So anyways, we're going to wrap this up and we're going to move into the digital marketing seminar. We have a couple great people on this one. I mean, the first is, let me pull this up right here. We have Dove Clark, who I work with a lot. She is a New York-based publicist. She's worked with everyone from Jim Jones, Yo Gotti. She currently works DJ Paul of 36 Mafia, Snow the Product, Ron Browz, many more. Who else are we working? We're working with one of Akon's artists right now. And I help her out on a lot of her releases as well. I mean, if you guys are ever interested in doing New York press runs, I mean, she typically, when she brings artists out, will get several stations, several radio shows. So, I mean, that's really what she specializes in, is the New York market. We also have my boy Q The Question. He's a publicist out of Philly. I mean, he's most famous for, he was the first publicist to work Fetty Wap's Trap Queen. We also have Amanda Jake Smiles, owner of Triple HQ. She's a publicist out of Atlanta. She's worked several great projects as well. So we definitely got some dope people on this, and we'll kick it over to the intros.
The CEO of Hip Hop Headquarters, aka TripleHQ.com.
So I'm Dove Clark. I'm the founder of Tiger Eye Entertainment, which is essentially an independent media relations company, and I've handled everything from, you know, the PR department, from print magazines and television and radio and different aspects of PR in my career, all the way to digital age, which is now predominantly online. Some of my past clients include Jim Jones, Yo Gotti, Snow the Product, Needlz, Ron Browz, Sirius Jones, J Mills. I've been with DJ Paul from 36 Mafia now. We're about to celebrate 6 years, actually. 6 years. Still together. And I also do, I don't want to say I do artist management, because that's incorrect. I manage an artist, Hattie Rax, out of New York. And I don't know that that's really the field that I want to be in, but it's been a great experience to manage him.
What's going on, y'all? This Q The Question, And I want to give a big shout out to the New England Hip Hop Awards for having me participate in this seminar. For those that don't know me, I come from a background of publicity and journalism. I've written for blogs and magazines such as Ozone Magazine, HipHopDX.com, HHN Live, Nobody Smiling. I freelance for The Source and many numerous publications. And from doing that, I was able to gain a lot of connections as a publicist. And, you know, I've done plenty of marketing campaigns. I've done campaigns for, DJ Cash, his new record with Wyclef Jean. Fetty Wap, I actually was one of the beginning people that was involved with the Trap Queen record. And I'm currently CEO of my own label, SKE Records. And I have 2 artists, Trell Mack and Sean Archer. And that's pretty much my background in the music business.
Go over is what platform should artists be using for their releases. We can roll into that.
One of the first questions Derek has is he's asking if an artist should release music on their own website or platforms. And the answer to that is yes. Definitely, I think an artist should release music on their own platforms. Because first of all, the website itself represents your brand. It's got your name, your information for everyone to go to. And if you can create traffic on your website, it becomes of value, meaning you could have a blog that could be equally successful as any other blog that takes music and posts your music if you just focus on building up the traffic. Case in point, you know, This Is 50 started out as 50 Cent's website and turned into a major content website. I know Boy Wonder had his blog and he turned that really into a music blog that a lot of other artists have been able to benefit from. And there are other artists examples, but I think for you as a brand, you should always put your content on your website. So even if you're loading it on SoundCloud, WhoMag, etc., those user-based content websites, I think it's still a very good idea to share your music and videos on your own website as well.
Yeah, I definitely believe that a lot of artists should be releasing music on their own platforms. A professional website is always good because you can generate a lot of traffic to your website. So even though you have platforms like SoundCloud and YouTube, a lot of times, even though you use those platforms to embed the record, it's always good that when you upload the records to those platforms, definitely announce on your website that that your fans and your audience can find a record on your professional website in which they'll listen to or download or stream off that platform. And that way you start building a brand and they'll go to your website in order to find new music, new blogs, releases, anything that you're doing that's press related.
As far as platforms are concerned, definitely your own platform. So if you do have a website, which you should have, definitely try to release your music on your own website. If not, if you're still in the early beginning, of course, you can always use SoundCloud, WhoMag are probably my top 2. Bandcamp coming in at 3. A lot of artists like to use that as well. But definitely try to get on your own platforms and also try to release your music through, of course, digital outlets such as Apple Music, Spotify,
what video number? 2, 3.
Amazon, and Google Play.
Yeah. All right. So just to add a little bit to that, I mean, basically, your end goal is to retain fans in this process. So SoundCloud, WhoMag, YouTube, all these, they're going to help get you out to new people, but your own website and your own platform should be used to be able to retain people. I'm going to give an example of a campaign we effectively ran for an artist named Kareem. He pushed out a single online, and we gave it, instead of selling it right away, he was a beginning artist, so rather than getting 20 people to pay the dollar on iTunes, we got thousands of people that gave their email address for a free download. He was able to retain those fans, he was able to sell merchandise to them later, and retarget them through email later. So I think that's the number one thing that artists need to do through their website, is drive people to either subscribe via email, or they also have the text messaging services right now. If you take a look at like what Joyner Lucas is doing right now with his phone number album thing, he's retaining all of those phone numbers for remarketing, and I I mean, it's a great way to do it. So make sure, I mean, those apps are probably like, I said, like 30, 40 bucks a month for the phone list, but the emails are free, and you can do that yourself. You can use things like MailChimp, Mad Mimi, and there's a bunch of different mailing list servers that you can use as well, and it's free for your first 1,000 subscribers on a lot of them. So that's what I would say. Don't use your website for traffic. You don't care about the traffic. It's about retaining and getting that rollover and collecting that person's information. That's so much more valuable than just numbers will be. So yeah, we're gonna keep going on talking a couple more answers from the panelists about platforms. So.
As far as the platforms you should be using, I think, as I mentioned, SoundCloud and WhoMag are really the two that a lot of people know. I'm a big advocate of using both platforms because they have two different user bases often. SoundCloud is owned by one company and WhoMag is owned by a different company, and they have two different ways that their platforms work. The apps are very different. So I think that comes down to the preference of the consumer, and it's good for you to capitalize off of using both. Also YouTube, if you're monetizing your YouTube and you're able to put your music audio on YouTube, I think that's very smart. If you have digital distribution nowadays, they actually will automatically put your music, the audio versions of your music, on YouTube now. So you can create playlists from those automated lists on your YouTube channel. It's very easy. If you release an album or an EP, if you go and search on YouTube, you'll find the automated audios, and you are getting paid for those through your monetization with your distribution company, so long as your paperwork is right, obviously.
Alright, so basically we're going to roll right into the next one. I kind of, on the last one, the part I want you to retain the most from that section is just retaining your fans through these releases. It's not just about getting 20,000 views on SoundCloud. Honestly, if you can get 100 people to enter your email address, that's more effective than 20,000 views. So you might have someone with 1,000 views. If you can retain 100 of those people, they're going to make 50 times more money because you can push merchandise, etc. to them. So you don't have to overly stress the numbers. And we're going to roll right into how to find your audience.
Finding your audience, that complicated, especially most of these artists these days are super young. Social media, it's the biggest thing ever. I mean, you have Twitter, you have Facebook, you have Instagram. Searching hashtags that can be, comparable to your music. If you're EDM, if you're more trap, whatever it is that you're really into listening to is what you should try to search. Join groups on Facebook, interact with other people based off of those hashtags, follow people, collect emails from certain blog owners or just fans in general. If you tweet something and somebody likes it, contact that person and let that person know, hey, is there a way I could reach you when I release something new? All kinds of different ways through social media, but you have to be able to put the energy into it in order to create and grow your whole audience organically. If you don't have the time, maybe you got a family and you doing a whole bunch of this stuff, but you still want to do music as well, create a budget to be able to maybe hire a social media manager that can also help. You can also hire a promotion company, a marketing company that can also help with demographics as far as doing advertisement to get to the right people.
Alright, so the next one we're going to do is how to interact and grow your audience. So I'll kind of chime in and give my personal advice on that after the panelists. So we'll kick into that.
When you're talking about interacting and growing an audience, I think I kind of just actually mentioned that. You want to pull in people that have similar interests or people who like artists who maybe sound like you, look like you, whatever the case is. And there's nothing wrong. I think sometimes people will say, well, I'm unique, I'm different, I'm special. Yes, everyone is unique. However, sometimes being affiliated with a look or a sound of another artist can actually work to your benefit. So don't write that off if someone says you sound or look like another artist. It could be a very big compliment.
Okay, so advertising is very big in the music business, and a lot of times, you know, with independent artists, they lack the knowledge of how to go about doing advertising. That's why it's
Alright, so I mean, one thing I would say in interacting and growing with your audience, I mean, like I mentioned, building on what I said last section, and retaining your fans' information, and then you can do some creative contests to get fans to share. Say you have t-shirts, once you have that, like, send that email list out and do a contest to win something. For example, if you're on tour, do a contest online to give away 2 free tickets, something like that. Anything to do to get your fans to engage. A lot of people have like a 50-50 rule. You shouldn't be sharing music more than 50% of the time, and you shouldn't be doing engagement stuff more than 50% of the time. The most successful artists have a pretty even rate of their music posts and their things to interact with the fans. So, I mean, the ways to get more likes, followers, shares, all that, you just have to post your everyday life, things that people can relate to. It's about finding the biggest audience that relates to you, really. So, if you're just posting music links, people aren't going to know you as a person. And a lot of times these days, people are liking these artists as individuals and not just musicians. So definitely that's a great way to do it. I mean, I'm going to go a little bit more into the advertising on the next section, so let's keep it rolling.
It's always best to hire professionals that actually understand how to go about doing certain campaigns. But if it's not in the budget to actually hire a professional, it's always good to take some time out and research and study how to do them yourself on a small scale. A lot of times with social media advertising, especially on, you know, Instagram and Facebook, you have artists that do advertising, but they don't actually know how to go about doing it. So a lot of times, you know, you got to do certain things like, okay,
bro, probably got like 20 minutes, then we're going to take a fucking smoke break, and then come back with number 3 afterwards. You'll want one halfway through after fucking the setup.
Arizona, California, maybe, you know, the Northwest, with some places like Seattle. Then like, for example, on Facebook, let's say you have a certain style. You might want to target certain rappers that you feel is your lane. Basically saying like, okay, if you're a fan of these particular artists, it's a good chance you could be a fan of me. So let's just say like, okay, you make a lot of single-driven music. You could be like, you know what? If you listen to Young Thug, 2 Chainz, or French Montana, that's my lane. Or if you want a super lyrical tip like a Logic, a J. Cole, a Big Crit, or a Kendrick Lamar, you can actually select those artists as your demographic, because you're basically telling people that, look, if you're a fan of those particular artists, you could be a fan of me as well. And that's one of the things about how to go about doing advertising. Even when you do YouTube advertising, that's great because it gives you the option to geo-target, to run video ads where you can actually cater to people in your surrounding areas. And that's always one of the best ways for an artist to build a buzz within his hometown, and that's how he get hot in the streets, or how she can get hot in the streets.
Alright, and I would add to that and say, I mean, a lot of artists make the mistake of using Boost Post. I mean, if you do that, it's good if you're targeting your own audience, but you really have to go through the business ads manager. Obviously, professionals do it the best way, but if you're doing it yourself, there's different algorithms. You can hit friends of fans, you can hit different regions. One thing I'm going to add, I'm going to tie this into touring, which I'm going to go on a little bit later. But for example, like, instead of targeting the whole country, let's say you wanted to hit 4 key cities over the next 3-month period. Allocate a majority of your ad budget to those 4 cities. That way you can sell tickets, hit the ground running, get the most fans there. I mean, you don't want to be wasting ad budget in Montana if you're living in Ohio and trying to get shows in Indiana. Or if you're in New Hampshire and trying to get shows in Maine, Massachusetts, and Vermont. So, I mean, try to keep, I mean, even though you want to get things globally, again, it's all about retaining fans. So, target one city at a time, then flip that investment back into more markets. So, that's the best way I would say. The other thing is just targeting similar artists. That works as well. And I believe the next section coming up is, are blogs still effective, and which one should I try to get on?
Are blogs still effective? Yes, blogs are very effective still. If you're an artist and you constantly use the same platform over and over and over again, and you're noticing that you're not, expanding, or your numbers are not improving, the purpose of the blogs is to get different reviews and different viewers and different followers. For example, if you constantly go to one website every time you release something, which is fine if you're going to premiere, after that premiere is done, you should want to expand to so many other blogs so that everybody can paste a review. You'll get good reviews, you'll get bad reviews. You'll also get new listeners, because what one blog has as far as their fan base, another blog might have completely a different fan base. So now you're expanding to more people to listen to your music.
And I just want to clarify one thing on what Amanda said. A lot of you might not know what a premiere is. So basically, the best way to get on these big websites is to give them a premiere, which would mean they get the song or release like 3 or 4 hours before somebody else. The bigger websites is really what they're doing. I mean, you guys know a lot of it is like TMZ age. They want the most click views. They want the most page views. So them getting a premiere guarantees them that they're going to get the bulk of your traffic, that you're going to share it there, etc. So you definitely should be shopping, or have your publicist shopping for one main premiere well ahead of your release. And typically, I mean, me as a publicist, my ability to secure that premiere usually determines the date and time of the release. I mean, we know you want to drop it on Monday or Tuesday, but I might get the content on a Saturday, and I just have to get a hold of someone at that outlet. I mean, sometimes it takes 24 hours to do that, but definitely don't just drop your music. Secure those premieres, and we'll keep rolling on this category now.
Blogs, I think Derek really asked a good question. Are blogs still effective in this day and age? I would say on one hand, yes. I think that obviously any way that you get your music out to the public is great. I also think that bloggers have the ability to be tastemakers. They have the ability to be influencers. However, in the scope of big business, they're not always necessarily giving the time that they used to give to write articles to give you a feel or a take on what they believe about music. So sometimes the voice of the blogs, I feel, is not as influential as it once was. And that's not all. Some of them still are. But I think overall that people, with the rise of the SoundClouds, WhoMag, YouTube, etc., that people don't need a blog anymore to find hot music. They can go directly to Spotify, directly to Tidal, whatever music subscription service, Apple Music, etc., even Xbox. If they're a gamer, they can stay right on Xbox and find music. So they don't really need a blog to tell them what's hot. I do always think that media is important. I think it's very vital for artists to create relationships with media, with bloggers, radio personalities, everyone, throughout your career, and never ever ever think that you're entitled to get something just because you're talented. It takes time to build relationships.
Blogs, in my opinion, have never really generated towards record sales. It's good for building up your press kit and your SEO. A lot of times, it's always good to get on a lot of blogs at times, because at the end of the day, the goal is to get new fans by any means necessary. So I don't care if a blog only has a readership of 500 people a week to 100,000 people a week. Any way to get a new fan, you have to go for it. So it can't hurt whether you do an interview with a small blog or a big blog. The goal is to get fans at the end of the day.
As far as which blogs to get on, well, of course, I'm always going to say you want to come to Hip Hop Headquarters, because that's where I am. But definitely I don't want to call out any specific blogs to say these are the specific ones that you should be on, because then again, it still depends on the type of music that you're putting out, or the region that you're in. If you want to get, a biased review, or you really want a review, like an official, just tell me how like it is type of review. But it's always still important to still build with each blog, because each blog has different requirements. Some blogs, you know, just are the copy and pasters. You got other blogs where if you contact them and say, hey, I'm dropping an album, can you go song by song and listen to my album and give me a critique review? Then you have other blogs that'll just post it and won't say anything. So I think it really depends on what you're actually looking for. If you're just looking for a placement, you can go anywhere. But if you're looking for, you know, more and more of a review, you want an interview, you want them to really put your name out there and co-sign you, you know, but it still takes the time for you to build that relationship, because you can't just jump in my inbox and say, Amanda, I need you to put me on your site or whatever. And I'm looking at you like, I don't even know who you are. You know, if you build that relationship with me, and I know when I see something pop in my inbox, I'm instantly going to be like, hey, that's so-and-so. Let me check this out. But yeah, it really, I can't really just, you know, say one specific blog over another one. There's so many hip hop blogs out there that are, I mean, I'm still amazed at, we think of just, you know, maybe where I am in Atlanta, having a southern region of how many hip hop blogs are right here. Imagine, you know, the UK, Japan, you know, there's so many other countries and regions. So, I mean, don't just stop with your local area either as far as getting on blogs. You want to try to go and try to build spreadsheets of where you were posted before and try to reach different regions. The more places that you reach, the more fans you'll get. Should you hire?
And to wrap up the blogs discussion, I mean, I would say just don't dedicate your whole budget to it. There's a lot of people out there that, I mean, even those of us bloggers within the community, we'll see people out there that will try to charge. I know Amanda's had this problem. There was some people that were trying to charge like hundreds of dollars for posts on her site, and it wasn't even authorized by her. So you got to watch out for those sharks. There's still good people that will give you good deals to get multiple posts, but don't let that be your only source of promotion. You got to tie that in with the advertisement and all that other stuff, and a publicist as well, which is the next subject. So we'll roll into that.
A publicist. This is another one that can be kind of, well, I wouldn't even consider it tricky. As a publicist, it really does depend. I think now it's become a trend. It's become the cool thing to do. It makes you look important, that you want to have somebody to say, hey, that's my publicist. But if you don't really need one, if you don't have anything worth press, there's absolutely no reason for you to have a publicist. If you're not doing anything that's, I mean, exactly, press worthy, I mean, nobody's talking about it. Why are you walking around with a publicist? Nobody knows who you are. I mean, to me, it just seems like if you hire one, that's a waste of money. When you're starting off in the beginning, as far as, you know, just SoundCloud, or, you know, you got a couple numbers on there, that's great. If you want to be promoted, you need to hire a promotional marketing company. There's a totally difference between a publicist, which people seem to get very confused, is that publicist is public relations. It is not promotions. It's not, our job is not to make you look big. You know, you need to hire a manager, you need to hire marketing, you need to hire those type of people compared to a publicist. Now, once you become a little bit where people are talking about you and stuff like that, and you're putting out things, and you're doing shows, and, you know, the blogs are talking about you, that type of stuff, that's when you want a publicist. A publicist is going to be that person to make sure that you look good at all times. They're going to handle any crisis. If you know, you're out on tour and you get drunk or something and something happens and TMZ picks it up, we're there. That's our job. Our job is to connect you as far as the social media and keep you in the limelight and making you look good at all times, everywhere. Keeping your fans happy, you know, keeping them updated on what's going on. What do you have going on? You know, your tour dates, your events, everything. That's what the publicist is supposed to do, is to give all the information to the public and make you look good. But hiring a publicist and saying, oh, I need my numbers to look good on SoundCloud, that's not our job. You know, there's so many people out there that work in marketing and promotions, but at the same time, be very, very, very careful when working with those type of people. Make sure that you do your research on anybody that you work with in this industry, because there's so many snakes, there's so many sharks that will take your money and will not do anything for you. Make sure you get, if you want to get referrals or testimonies or anything, reviews, search their company name on the internet. Find out, make sure that they're legit. But yeah, I don't believe everybody needs a publicist. If you don't have anything newsworthy about you, or that somebody's looking to find out what's going on with you other than through your Facebook, then you really do not need to hire a publicist.
Another good question, should I hire a publicist? I would say if you are not at a level where you're actually going to put out a formal mixtape, meaning you're putting it on all the mixtape sites, putting out songs, making videos for that music. If you're not willing to actually work a project, that also goes into an EP, an album, whatever, I don't really think that you should hire a publicist. Not right away. I think there's a lot of things you can do on your own before you even get to that point. So when it comes to a PR person, if you're a producer, I think you should wait till you get a really strong placement, meaning a placement that you got actually charted, did something really significant, so that you could talk about your body of work based upon that hit. When it comes to music, I think that it's, again, really important. You have to be able to interact with media and blogs, but today's PR people are a lot more savvy with the internet than they were a few years back. I think that the new brand of Publicist also has the ability to help you with social media. They have the ability to help you grow on different levels. It's kind of a matter of personal taste, because sometimes people want a publicist that will take them out to parties, and there are some great PR people out here that do that. Just know whoever you hire, know what their specialties are. Understand, ask questions, ask around about those people. Make sure you're not just throwing money out without doing your research, because you want people that you can grow with in this business. So do your research. Big thing. Before you hire anyone, do your research.
It's always good to hire a publicist, because publicists have the relationships to get you the press that you need in regards to getting your music exposed. They have relationships where, based off a couple phone calls or a couple emails, they could get your music exposed to the top journalists, editors, people that have connections to certain playlists to get your music exposed. A lot of times artists sit back and be like, you know what, I don't understand that when I hit up certain blogs or magazines or certain people in the business, I don't get a response. But the reality is, this is a who you know business. And it's all about having connections. So whether you hire an independent publicist or a top agency or marketing firm, they always can work in your favor, because it's always about who you know. I always compare it to an agent working with an athlete, that certain athletes like to hire certain agents because they're able to get them certain deals that others can't. And it comes down to connections. And not only that, you get professional presentation and professional representation. So, writing a professional press release, sending out your bio, your EPK, making you look like a star in order to get treated like one. And that's why it's always best to hire a publicist, because getting press on your music, whether you do reviews or interviews, that's always key.
Alright, so that pretty much sums that part up. The next question is, should I do cover songs? So we'll roll into that.
Cover songs, and you know what, for rappers, freestyles won't hurt, because a lot of times, I'm not so big on that, only because I feel like you do have to prove yourself as an artist by developing your own catalog of records, or records that people respect, in order to build a name. But if you put out a lot of cover songs for people to see your freestyle skills, or how good you spit on the mic, or what type of skills you have, that's cool. With R&B singers and pop stars, cover songs could work, only because a lot of times you want to see how good you are vocally, or even if you do those type of records to show that you can add your own spin on it and make it hot. I mean, you see a lot of people do cover songs to like some of the biggest records by Justin Bieber, The Weeknd, and Miguel. So cover songs can't hurt. But at the end of the day, you still have to develop a brand by making your own catalog of hit records.
With
And in addition, on the cover songs, so if say you were to try to cover a Beyonce record and put it on Facebook, they're not going to allow you to do that. They're going to take it down. And the main reason they're going to take it down isn't because of the instrumental. They're going to take it down because you're singing somebody else's lyrics. So basically, I mean, one good strategy that a lot of artists are doing, they're taking hot beats and adding their own twist to it, doing their own remixes. You guys see that all day long. But if you're a singer, and that's something that a lot of rappers do, if you're a singer and you just are trying to cover a top industry song, they are going to take it down on Facebook, Instagram, and all that, because that's copyrighted material and you don't have permission to use it. So, I mean, there are platforms out there that you can get green lighted to be able to do cover songs. I think TuneCore has a way to do that now, actually. So I would say, I mean, one good thing you can do is you can put out like a clip and to have people give you their email to be able to download it for free or something like that. You can't sell a cover song with someone else's work, but you can give it away for free in exchange for an email. Then you can sell that person a sweatshirt for $20 once you have their email. So yeah, we're gonna roll into the next one: how to make the most off of streaming.
How do you make the most out of streaming? It's a good question. I think streaming has become such a prevalent business nowadays, and you see the articles about how it doesn't pay a lot to the artists.
We got two more, then we're taking a 5-minute break. Peace.
Audience than anything ever has in the past. So I think that it all comes down to the fact that it's building your brand. The brand that an artist builds is.
Do you have any extra thoughts on you? I gotta go get some in between. I still have a pack and a half in my web.
The commercials. If you have good publishing, your music can go much farther than just sales or anything like that online. So I don't have the best answers about the monetization part because that's really not my specialty. But what I do know is that you should never shy away from streaming right now. I think that it's really one of the best ways to get your music out there.
Well, the reality is this: everybody is streaming now. I remember reading an article on Billboard where it broke down how streaming generates more money than physical CD sales, vinyl, and digital downloads combined. Because when you look at the reality of the business, I mean, music still sells, but physical copies don't sell as much. Yes, physical CDs still sell, but they don't sell as much. I mean, even with me, I stream on Amazon to get any album I want for $9.99 a month. So it still makes sense to accept it for what it is. Of course, as an independent artist, the payouts are not but so high because, again, it's not a huge amount of money to be broken down when you got over 100 million people that subscribe to streaming services paying $9.99 to get any album or single that they want once it drops. So it's still good to have your music on streaming platforms to make something. So even though it's not as big as it is as an album sale, I always say that I'd rather get a couple dollars than nothing at all. And just have your music on those platforms, because the reality is, whether you like it or not, everybody streams. It's the digital era. Digital downloads don't even sell as much no more. But everybody can stream any album they want on the various streaming services like Apple Music, Amazon, Tidal, and the top one, Spotify. So it's always important to have your music on streaming services.
Just to add on a little bit on the streaming, I mean, a platform I recommend to a lot of artists is TuneCore that are coming up to be able to get those streaming royalties. So the only reason that you need an outside company, I would say probably one of the top 3 ways you could potentially get scammed or get taken advantage of as a potential artist is through publishing. I've seen so many people, they'll just shine people to like 20% of their publishing or stuff like that and do no work for them, just hoping they're going to blow up and collect royalties later just because they're attached to a name. You really have to have a specific individual that you know has drive and ambition, like Schwartz spoke about earlier in the first section, knowing that they're going to do certain stuff. Like, for example, I won't sign a publishing and distribution deal with a company unless they guarantee some sort of budget for an artist for the promotion, because if they don't do that, that means they're not confident in their ability to make money off of the project, because they're getting a percentage. So if they're not willing to put up an amount in the upfront, I would always recommend to an artist not to sign that. And I'm not talking huge amounts of money. They might throw $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 into a project. Even some of the biggest artists, like they, I mean, I'm not talking the Drakes and stuff like that, but the old school cast that still push good records, some of the top indie guys, they're probably get about $20K advance from these publishing companies just going through their marketing and such forth. So yeah, that's basically, I would just recommend going to TuneCore. But if you really have a hit single, then push that record out to these independent guys like Rob Schwartz and other people like that. And if one of them really fuck with the record, that's who you would sign with. People that can get placements like that. And I'm sorry, not everyone, obviously. If you don't have a track record, I mean, they aren't going to give you advances and stuff like that. That's when you would just find someone hungry. So anyways, we're going to roll into the next section. Work smarter, not harder. How to be most effective.
Work smarter, not harder. Advice to be more effective. Definitely just putting in the work. I mean, don't be lazy. This music industry is not something that you can just sit back and expect it to just magically happen. Yes, we've had some people recently that have just gone viral and getting signed, but I mean, it doesn't work for everybody. It's a lottery. It really is. And you have to put in the work. Build a circle, a small circle of people that you truly trust and that you've found references on, hiring new people. Like I said before, make sure that you're doing your research on people before you let them in. Make sure that, you know, your artwork, like I said, is clean. Make sure that you're sending out professional emails. Don't spam people. Just the small things can make such a big difference. Looking into advertisement, getting the right promotional companies to back you up. Just different things that you can do. You can always follow Triple HQ. We put out a lot of Hip Hop 101. There's actually a section on our website where you can check out a lot of new blogs that I write, and a couple of other writers will put out information. Well, about weekly, we'll do one where we just put out good information for artists to follow. You can also follow me on Twitter at Awesomeness with 2 Z's at the end instead of 2 S's. Follow Triple HQ at Triple HQ, and same thing with Instagram. And make sure you check out Hip Hop Headquarters, aka triplehq.com.
All right, being more effective. Yeah, if you think about the amount of time in the past that artists had to take to get to the top, like they always say, there's 10 years of hard work behind an overnight success. I don't really think it's changed that much. I think that the perception is that people just blow up overnight because this song blew up on SoundCloud and everybody's listening, or it blew up on radio and everybody's listening. But the average person, if you ask the person that had that hit, chances are they were out here for several years grinding just like you, doing their thing. You know, if you're a behind the scenes person, you might see someone like myself and say, well, she doesn't look that much different than I do. She looks like a normal person, you know, like what makes her special? What makes what she does special? And it really is a couple decades of relationships that make what I do different from someone just getting in the game. Doesn't mean I'm better than people. There are people that are gifted on every level of the business. But what it does mean is that I've taken the time to create relationships. And that's what a big part of your career is going to be about, no matter what your talent is, no matter how focused you are on going a certain direction. The relationships are always going to be the foundation of a great career, no matter what.
Well, what is the most effective way to break as an artist? Honestly, I can't really answer that. Because if you look at every artist in every genre, from hip-hop to R&B, pop, country, EDM, every single artist has their own story of how they blew up, whether it was through blogs, radio, street promotion. Now, don't get me wrong. You have to do the key essential. Promote, period. Publicity, advertising, whatever. But at the same time, I cannot say it's one exact way, because if it was one exact way, that one exact way could or would work for everybody. But that's why you have to go through trial and error to see what works for you at the end of the day.
And I would say one thing to add to that is just be methodical about the way you go about everything. You don't just do everything in your head. Make sure you write down your list of your objectives, your goals, and treat it like a job, because it's your aspiring career. So make sure you cross things off checklists, and that's the best thing I can say. When I worked in politics before I did music, they used to train me every day to wake up and make a list of what you need to accomplish that day. That way you can bang through it. It's not just a mental note, it's something you have to get off of a list. So that's why I would say to be most effective. I'm going to go into the last question on digital marketing. What mistakes do artists need to eliminate? Any final words? And I'm going to go into the questions on that.
What mistakes artists need to eliminate? Well, one of the biggest things that I always say what the problem is, which is the problem with a lot of artists, I can't make it no more clear than this. They don't treat it like a business. A lot of times they want it to become a career, but they don't act as such. So a lot of times when you say, look, invest in marketing, invest in advertising, invest in publicity, get a street team, a lot of times they don't want to do it. And the problem is, as I always say, they're treating it like a hobby, not a career. And that's just one of the main things that I can say for a lot of artists, 95% of them. It's a hobby, it's not a career. And they need to treat their career like a business. The same way a lot of these big companies advertise their products on television and radio and online, you need to do the same thing as an artist, because the reality is your music is a product at the end of the day.
Alright, so that wraps it up for the digital marketing section. I'm just going to summarize real quick. We broke down, releasing on your own platforms, the way to best gain off of that, and my advice was just to use that to be able to retain emails. And anytime you release something, you want a next steps. What do you want them to do after they view it? You always want an action taken afterwards. So we broke down ads, a publicist, doing cover songs, and using that to grow your fan base. And the biggest thing with digital marketing is just having a plan. I would wrap it up by saying every major artist, they have a social media calendar. So as an independent artist, you can also create a social media calendar. Make sure you follow that 50-50 rule as close as you can, where you're not posting all music. If you're posting music links all day long to your music, then people are going to just look at you as a spammer. They're not going to look at you as a person. So do your best to create engaging content, and it doesn't even have to be live. Like publicists like me, Dev Clark, etc. We'll be scheduling social media content 3 to 4 weeks out for clients. And a lot of companies and brands do that as well. And yeah, that's really the best way to say that. So anyways, that's all for the digital marketing section. We have 2 more, booking and managing your own shows and tours, and the 4th one, and the biggest one, is how to monetize your career. So we are going to take a 5-minute break to go eat some pizza, and we will be right back in 5 minutes. right, the next section is booking and managing your own shows and tours. Welcome back. We got Acrobatic joining us live in like 20 minutes. You already know the legend. We're gonna kick off. If you don't know where we're at Cloud9 in beautiful Hampton Beach, New Hampshire. Literally, I'm 50 feet away from the Atlantic Ocean. Like, this is my favorite venue out here. We're gonna have Cam Green, who is the owner of Cloud9, just give you guys some quick advice on do's and don'ts when you're hitting up a venue owner to get shows.
So on booking a venue, I've done over 500 shows, so I've seen every kind of show there is that can happen. Is make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. I mean, everybody that I talk to, oh, we're gonna have 300 people, we're gonna have 400 people. I mean, a venue doesn't really care too much about the numbers. It's more about the professional, like what you're doing and the whole vibe of the show. Like, know that you're gonna have people, especially at a venue like Hampton Beach. It's a vacation area. If you go into an inner city club, you go into any kind of club, know where you're at. Don't just look at just the venue, how nice the venue is. Know the location, know the people at that location. Know that if you're an out-of-town artist from Boston, you come to New Hampshire, you should probably have some New Hampshire artists on your bill, because that brings in the local crowd around here. I mean, you can be as good as you want to be in Boston. If no one knows you in New Hampshire, your show, I mean, unless you're going to bring everyone from Boston to your show, people out here are not going to, you know, be that grateful to see someone, even if you're very talented, unless, I mean, especially if you're a coming up artist. I mean, those are the things you have to look at. Like, know your budget, know what you're trying to spend, know what you're trying to do. Make sure you're professional at all times. Come early. And when you're hitting up a venue, and in the venue, the first thing I ask anybody, what are you trying to do? And the most answers I get is, I'm trying to throw a show. Obviously, if you're calling me, I know you're trying to throw a show. But like, what is it about? Are you trying to get your music out there? Are you trying to throw a party? Are you trying to just have a listening party for you and your friends? Or are you trying to make money off it? And all those are fine. I have no problem with all those. If you're trying to make money, then you realize you gotta broaden who you're trying to sell to. So making sure you have enough dance time for people, the ladies and stuff that want to come and dance. A lot of these shows want to do 45 acts and no time to breathe in between, and they want 30-minute sets. That's not a club type situation. I mean, you want to get your music out there, your best 3 songs. I tell people that all the time. Come with your best 3 songs, and that's it. I mean, you don't want to do your whole album, but I guess the major thing, just to get back to exactly what it is. So when you call a venue, make sure you have your list already. Make sure you know who's going to be on the show. Make sure you know how many people you're going to do, how the venue, and how to, the times and everything, so you don't, and make sure your artists are there on time. There's nothing worse in a venue than, a show's supposed to start at 9, you guys show up at 11 o'clock and expecting to still run the same show when you know a venue closes at 1 or 2. So those are things you got to make sure you have, and come correct, man. Like, know your paperwork. Like, we send out contracts. A lot of artists, we send out contracts and don't even read them. And then when they get to the venue, they ask the same questions that's on the contract. That makes you look unprofessional. Like, know what you're trying to do. Like, we're in business now together. I mean, if we do a show with you, we're business partners. So you never want to look, silly to another business partner, because who knows? A record label may call us. What do you think of this artist? How was this show? And I mean, I'd like to give good reviews on everybody, but like, some people really need to work on, how professional they are when they come to the club, how the show works. And yeah, it doesn't matter what venue. You can be in a Fleet Center, you can be in, any venue on the planet. There's always going to be things that go wrong. The mics may cut out, the speakers, or anything. I mean, it happened in the Super Bowl, it can happen in any venue. And you got to be professional about that. A lot of people start complaining. They want to throw it on a venue, they want to throw it on that. Like, you never know when you're going to need a venue down the road. So badmouth for any venue for any artist is a bad thing, because it can easily turn into being blackballed for different things like that. So always stay professional, man. I mean, and know what venue you're messing with. I mean, mess with a lot of venues that are supporting what you're doing. You know what I mean? There's You know, it's a lot of cats that want to run off to the House of Blues. They want to get in there, and it's a good look on your resume. But are they supporting your music? Are they really getting behind it? Is this a venue that, you know, does and believes in hip hop or any kind of music you're doing rock or whatever? I mean, just renting a venue and you're just there to pay bills is, I mean, you would like, I mean, anything you do, you would like someone to be able to support what you do and how you do it, and be able to hopefully give you, you know, glowing reviews and want to bring you back. I mean, just renting venues is just not, you know, it's not always wise is to rent any venue that you can afford. Like, really scout things out, the culture of the club, you know, the being neutral. You know, I mean, you want to be in venues that are neutral and everything like that. So, you know, that everyone's comfortable, feel like they come to. I mean, you got cats that, you know, if you have a, you know, certain crowd and you throw a, you know, a show at a different venue that your crowd maybe not comfortable coming to. Those are the things you gotta know about. So, besides that though, man, like always, I mean, be able to fax and email. So, I mean, I asked a person, you know, do you have a press release or anything like that? A lot of you artists don't have them. These are things that, you know, don't cost much, but that's what venues look at, man. Like, I definitely always ask for, hey, do you have a press packet or something like that, so I can know what you're about, what your movement's about. And, you know, in any venue that gets more successful is going to start to get more picky and get more, you know, selective in who they're allowing. And I mean, Cloud9 hopefully never, you know, gets to that point. We try to give everybody a shot, but, you know, giving everybody a shot, you do run into some you know, some bad shows. But I mean, hopefully you learn from it. And I've seen artists learn from it, come back and bounce back and do a really good job. But just really focus on, like, your paperwork. Same way you go in and you write in the studio, you do whatever you're doing. Make sure your business half is right. Come correct, man, because if not, I mean, you get pushed on the back burner. Or you know, these guys don't really know what they want to do, or you won't get the date you want, or, you know, they'll try to push you off on a Thursday or a Wednesday or anything like that if they don't know what you're trying to do. But if you come correct, man, with paperwork, it's very impressive to see a lineup list, to see times and slots and all those things that you're supposed to have, and make sure your DJ's right, make sure your DJ's there on time, make all these things, man, because the worst thing is to have a show at a venue that could have been good, but it was managed poorly. I mean, and promotion is a big thing about them. A lot of clubs, man, nowadays, they're gonna rent the club. Yeah, they may throw out a couple of posts here on Instagram or any of that, but like, when you rent a club out, the promotion's really on you. And a lot of people get that twisted, like, oh, you rent the club out, the club is supposed to really promote for you. The club is really just renting the venue, and they're renting the stereo system, the bar, the licenses and all that for you to perform. So the promotion's really on you. And if you involve the venue and call them and really try to set up where they can really help you with your promotions. But sometimes, I mean, just sending a venue a flyer or something like that is, you know, they're gonna post your flyer. And I mean, we try to go above and beyond. I try to post a lot and speak on it, but a lot of people, I do shows with I know personally, but like going to different venues, different, you know, out of state, out of town, whatever. I mean, they're venues are not gonna go out of their way to promote the show. They expect that you do that. They expect that you have a following and all that. So, you know what I mean? When you come to a venue saying, oh, I can bring 300 people, can you really bring 300 people? Because some venues will look at you and expect that, or expect something like that. Like, if you got 10 people on your show, and I tell every artist, you got 10 artists on your show, if each of those artists can't bring 10 people, they probably should not be on that show. And I'm being dead honest with you. If you can't bring 10 fans or 10 people to come watch you, if you have 10 artists, 10 people, each artist, that's 100 people in the club. Not that hard. So really focus on those things, man, and come correct to the venue. Be there early. You know what I mean? Come right, man. Come correct. And I mean, you get glowing reviews, man. Anyone that does a great show here or does the right thing, I always get online and speak about it, because other clubs look at other clubs. I get called by other club venues and everything, and they ask about different performances. So I really don't know too much more to say about that, but I hope everyone comes correct, man. You know, 2018, man, we're gonna be rocking. So get it in. You know what I'm saying? New England Hip Hop Awards. Cloud9.
right, and up next, I'm gonna kind of wrap this up and give some more feedback on this. But we got a legend in the building right now. I mean, one of the top independent artists throughout the New England region. I mean, you know him from all his morning sports wrap-ups on Gemini 4-5. You know him from, I mean, all the Red Sox commercials last postseason. Acrobatics in the building, so he's gonna give you all some gems.
Word up. Appreciate it, D. Am I in the spot right here? I'm good?
Yeah.
Cool, man. So, yeah, first of all, thanks for the intro, Derek. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to GetMoneyMusic.com. Shout out to the New England Hip Hop Awards for having me on. You know what I'm saying? Peace to you, brother. How you doing?
Nice to meet you.
So good to meet you too. And so, you know, I'm here to talk a little bit about artists touring and setting up your own tours. I know a lot of people in the New England area and then around Boston know me for doing stuff on the radio, like Derek said, and for doing you know, putting my records out and stuff. But touring has been essentially the staple of my career that has allowed me to have, like, you know, the longevity and the fan base growing over the years. Ever since I first started putting records out way back when I was a kid, that was one of the first things I wanted to figure out. We had done the shows at like the Middle East and the Old Western Front and stuff like that, and had established ourselves at a few of the venues locally. But because college radio was rocking our music so much, the word was spreading around the country and even to like Canada and eventually parts of Europe and stuff like that the music was hot. So it became really important to link up with these people. And you know, in the music industry, there's always going to be different opinions on how you should go about doing stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of booking agents out there. I've been working with different booking agents in different cities for a long time. But I think that the most important thing is that the same way an artist would maintain an independent frame of mind towards putting music out, I think that the independent frame of mind is also important when you're trying to do outreach and get to different parts of the country and eventually different parts of the world. So, you know, talking to all of the radio DJs that are playing your music is important. You have to remember that hip hop is a community, and sometimes we get caught up in the part of what we're trying to get out of it for ourselves. Like we're trying to, you know, get money, we're trying to get fame, and you know, we want to be heard, we want everybody to hear us. So sometimes those things get put, like, you know, the cart gets put in front of the horse, so to speak, with that. But first and foremost, hip hop is a way of life. You know, KRS-One famously said, rap is something you do, hip hop is something you live. So the hip hop is something you live part is what I'm trying to focus on, where hip hop is a community, it's a way of life. So everywhere that there are people who love hip hop music and take part in the hip hop lifestyle, there's going to be a need and a demand for hip hop artists to bring art out their way. And connecting with those people is crucial, I feel, to anybody's success. You know, nobody's an island out here. Nobody's just gonna be so hot that they just become a millionaire with nobody's help. So the hip hop community together is all working together. So if you got connects, for instance, you know, I just branched out. When I first heard that my first single I ever put out way back in the day, like, I saw that was getting on college radio in Canada. So you know, me and my manager at the time, we called up the radio stations. You know, we set up interviews with them. Then next thing you know, there's a buzz, and then, you know, not too long after that, I was able to go up to Canada to these towns and do the shows where I had a little fan base. And, like, you know, maybe the first time you go, there's only 100, 200 people there to see you. Next time you go, it could be twice that, 3 times that. So you got to build it. And if you plan on having it be your lifestyle in what you do, and not just, okay, I put out one hot song and made a bunch of money, then I found something else to do. If you really love it, if you really want it to be your lifestyle, then you're gonna realize that you need to build these relationships over a long period of time. So spreading out from Canada to, you know, the West Coast and down south, you just eventually build friendships all over the globe where you set up events at these individual places, you know. And now with the social media network being so blown up as it is, finding people in different cities is easier than ever. So there's really no excuse. Getting on the road and doing shows and really connecting with people is the way to stand out amongst the crowd, because there's a million rappers on SoundCloud, there's a million rappers on every site, there's a million rappers in every city. So when you actually go somewhere, you're in the same room with them, and you do your show for them, and it's polished and you sound good, and they have a reason to understand why you're different from everybody else who's just kind of rapping also, that's where you get the power. That's where you get the longevity. You do that, you know, you make good connections everywhere you go. You continue to get invited back, and you know, you book your own stuff. You meet booking agents, you share contacts with people, or you know, like I'm in Boston, I have a lot of friends that rhyme in different cities. You know, like maybe my man in LA will call me up and be like, hey, look, you know, I'm coming through New England, you got a couple of people you could hook me up with that could maybe get me some spots while I'm out there. Maybe we link up and do the shows together, or I just put them on with the contacts so that when I come out to Cali, you know, just on a link like that, I did 7 shows in 7 nights in Cali last summer, and was able to just come back to Cali again this summer and do another tour, you know, just based off of those connections. And you meet the promoters who are doing it now, you meet the MCs that are doing it now, so you can always stay relevant. So like in a lot of situations, you know, I've been around for a minute, I'm a lot older than these cats, so some people might think, oh, you know, maybe they don't want to bring me around because they're doing this new thing, but the reality is a lot of these guys grew up listening to my music, so they would love to have me come down. And once they see me come through and see that I still got it and I'm doing my thing and I'm still bringing what I bring to the game, that even adds more value to my brand and more value to my name. And you got, you know, these guys looking up to me, and then that's just part of the chain, because the guys that I'm looking up to in the game, whether they be promoters or artists, you know, maybe I could call Chuck D now and be like, look, Chuck, you know, from Public Enemy, like, look what I've been doing for the last 5 or 10 years. You know what I'm saying? I see you on tour in stadiums rocking with 20, 30,000 people, you know, what's good? You know, you have those relationships where maybe you can start to make moves like that. Like, that's still a dream of mine, but it's an aspiration that I have. It's something that I eventually want to do. It's on my bucket list, however you want to look at it. And, you know, as long as you always have something to look forward to, I think you put yourself in a good position in the game. And as long as you realize, I'll give you a perfect example locally. New England, right now, we got a crew from Cambridge, Mass. And you know, Cambridge got a lot of talented MCs, Virtuoso, Millies, and my boys I want to bring up now, NBS, Natural Born Spitters. Those dudes right now are in Malaysia. They just toured through Hong Kong, China, Malaysia. They're doing a whole tour through Asia, and that is all based on them having their contacts. And they, you know, they've done projects with producers in different places. They got producers in Hungary and Switzerland. They go out and do an EP or album with those guys, and then they go back to those places and do tours, and then that's how you can spread out internationally. Myself, I did a project with a cat named LX Beats out of Finland, and you know, once I did that, I showed it to all my other contacts and people that running the radio shows and running the blogs and stuff. He came to Boston, we shot a video, and then I went out to Finland and did a tour all through Finland, and it was a success, and we did a documentary about the project, and it made it onto national TV in Finland also. And so, you know, there's like 190 something countries out there. We're not confined to just the town that we're from. We're not confined to just the area that we're from. We can always rep where we're from, but hip-hop is a community, it's everywhere, and my advice to any artist would be to take part in that. Be an ambassador for your hood, be an ambassador for the style of music you do, and just go everywhere, and let's just keep the hip-hop bond strong, whether it be regional, whether it be generational, however you want to look at it. Just be a part of it, and that'll keep it alive, and we'll all do well. That's what I believe. So hopefully you find that information to be helpful, and anybody that wants to further the conversation, you can find me through NewEnglandHipHopAwards.com. You can find me through GetMoneyMusic.com, or you can go to my personal spots, Acrobatic MC, on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. All right, God bless. Acrobatic. I'm out.
Alright, sorry for the little intermission. So I'm just going to recap the booking and managing your own tour stuff. Obviously, Acrobatic just gave you a lot of gems on that. And I'm going to tie this back into the digital marketing. So for example, like he was saying about doing tours in Finland, etc. This is where you can tie in and do your promotions to those markets that you want to hit and you want to tour. Just make sure you're spending your dollars more effectively. I'm just going to kick through a couple questions I have wrote down real quick. So paid shows and door splits. Once you get a certain level of buzz, I mean, artists are like, I don't want to do a show unless I'm paid. Well, I mean, if you really have a fan base in the area, you don't need a guarantee in that area. If a venue owner will work out a door split with you, and usually you can make more money in the long run that way, as long as your promo game is on point. Beyond that, touring wise, that works a lot as well. So for example, let's say you go on a 10-day tour. You're in Cleveland one day, you're in Indianapolis the next day, and your booking agent or yourself, if you're booking it, you got paid gigs those days on Friday and Saturday. The next day it might be a Sunday, the next day it might be a Monday, you might not have something booked till Tuesday. So let's say 2 paid, 2 off days, and then a paid show the next day. It would make sense to get door splits to make sure you're still doing shows on those off days. And that's once you have a buzz already. I mean, that's for the more established artists that can draw based off of door splits, etc. But I mean, you don't want to be on the road and just spending money on hotels, etc. You want to keep your schedule full. So anyways, when you want to go on tour and you want to work with an agency, they're going to require information about all of your past shows. So anytime you've performed at a registered venue, any Live Nation venue, any House of Blues, they have a record of how many people bought tickets for that show and how many people attended. So anytime you contact someone large, they have a record of your of all the crowds. And if you just perform smaller venues, then you're not going to show any show history. It's just the way it works. So basically, when these people are selling arenas, etc., I mean, someone can pull them up in the database and see all their statistics. So they know what their investment is, and they know what markets they've done well in the past, etc. So I would say do's and don'ts. I would say don't call something a tour if it's not an actual tour. I see a lot of artists doing that. They'll book like 5 different shows within their region, but they're not the headliner. I'm sorry, it's not. Don't call it a tour if you're not the headliner. make it official. If you're calling something a tour, the event really needs to be shaped around that. And there's nothing wrong with doing several events in different areas. Just make sure your branding is on point. Don't call something a tour if it's not, because you really got to go hard with that stuff. And I'm gonna wrap this up with talking about monetization on shows and tours. A lot of artists in this New England region really lack on their merchandising. If you watch everyone from I'm just gonna stick with Tech Nine. Tech Nine's a great example of a top independent artist. If you walk into any of his shows, in the history when he was starting or now, they have a full merchandise table and they're monetizing off of that. They have their CDs, all that stuff, and you really, merchandise is one of the best ways you can make money as an independent artist. So, definitely make sure you're doing that at shows. Again, like I said a couple times earlier, everything is about your next steps. It doesn't matter if you step on a stage, people might like your stuff, but guess what? They just had 6 drinks, so they're probably going to forget your name tomorrow unless you take a next step with them. So, it is what it is in that aspect. Whether you have some promo stuff to hand out, I would just try to make a hard sale with them with merchandise, though, so you can monetize yourself on the road and not be taking losses traveling. And anyways, we're about to wrap this one up now, the booking and managing your own shows and tour section. Thank you to Cam Green and Acrobatic, who both stepped in on this one. And we are about to roll into how to monetize your career. I'm going to just give you some background on some of these people I have on the panel. We have Q the Question on this panel, who is also on the digital marketing one. One of my favorite people, we have Wendy Day on this. She's the founder of Rap Coalition. She's brokered deals for everyone from Eminem to Master P. She's a legend. Her and Tony right now work. Trouble was one of the top up-and-coming artists in the South. They took him from not a known name to, really being one of the top 10 rising artists in the South, to the point where he's on the Mike Will Made It and Drake check. So, they put in a lot of work, so definitely respect Wendy. You can Google her. Her history traces all the way back to the Rap Olympics, where she was influential in getting Eminem out there. So anyways, the first question on this, how to monetize your career, actually we're going to go into the intros.
Hi, Wendy Day here from Rap Coalition. I'm so happy to be part of this. I think that knowledge is the most powerful thing that you can have in the music industry. So kudos to all of you that have tuned in for this. You're absolutely doing the right thing.
Alright, back on me. So the first question is, when should I hire a manager? Any do's and don'ts? So we're going to roll into that.
Many times, artists hit me up and ask me, when they should hire a manager. And that's kind of a gamble, only because I feel like a manager should be something that happens organically. Now, don't get me wrong, when it comes to managers, I don't think that a lot of times artists understand what they're looking for in a manager. Even when they want to get represented by the top ones, they think that a manager is somebody they can just hit up and be like, hey, can you manage me? Now, don't get me wrong. When you build a team, it's nothing wrong with having your homies be on your team. But make sure they have the ability to work, they actually want to learn about the business. Because learning the business is going to separate you from everybody else. But at the same time, if you got somebody that's in your corner and want to be involved in your career and eventually want to be a manager, as long as they're willing to learn a business, it could be somebody that you rise to the top with. You have a lot of relationships like that in the business, where a lot of your biggest artists in all genres have people that they started off with from the beginning. But when you want to go to the top dogs, that's kind of hard unless you become a brand in which they reach out to you. So in that case, you don't look for managers. Let them come to you. Get on your grind, get hot in the streets and online, and they will come to you.
So we want to talk about how to monetize your career. Let's talk about hiring a manager. The number one question that people ask me is, when should I hire a manager? And the answer is when there's something to manage. And I'm not being flippant by saying that, but managers get paid somewhere between 10% and 20% to manage your career. The norm is 20%. So if you're not making any money yet, 20% of nothing is nothing. And while a manager is in place to help you get to the next level in your career, there really needs to be a way for them to make money, or they're not going to be as dedicated to you as they are maybe to another client that they're making money with. So I always tell artists that if you can wait until you can't possibly manage yourself anymore, meaning you've got so much stuff going on that you're not able to keep up with it, then hire a manager. Because the level of manager that you're going to attract when you're about to make money or starting to really make money is much different than the level of manager you're going to be able to attract as a brand new artist that hasn't really accomplished anything yet. The great thing about a manager is they're going to see what you're doing and what you've accomplished, and they're going to apply their relationships and their connections to help you get to the next level. But a manager does not wave a magic wand and put you on. You've got to really be entrepreneurial yourself, and you've got to really be out there grinding and making noise for yourself. And then a manager is going to come along and get you to that next level. A manager is sort of like your partner almost, if you will. You're going to sit down and discuss what your plans are for your career, and then that manager is going to help take you to the next level. They're going to implement the plan and get you successful. That's what a manager does. So hire one when the timing is right, when you can't self-manage anymore, and do it when they can just step in and start making some money with you. It's a business. It's a job. And make sure the person has experience as a manager. You know, see what they've done with other artists whose careers you admire, right? Don't just pick your boy to be your manager. It's not a title. It's really an important part of your career. I've seen managers kill careers in this industry. And in that case, I call them damagers, not managers.
All right, so yeah, I'm not going to add too much more on that subject. I mean, Hugh and Wendy really covered it well. It's always a gamble when you're dealing with a management situation. I would say just the biggest advice is just be wary of your paperwork. I've seen so many artists. I mean, 4 times within the last month, artists have hit me up. How can I break my contract with my bad manager? So just make sure you know what you're signing into. A lot of times, artists will, your management contracts will have ancillary periods, which means say you have a 1-year term, your manager still, in the fine print, will still get paid lesser amounts for year 2 and 3, which any big manager is going to want. But just make sure your contract has clauses where it's breakable if the person is neglecting their duty. It's always about what's not in the contract that can hurt you, not what's in there most of the time. That's the biggest thing. I'm going to say that again. Usually what hurts you is what's not in the contract, not what's in it. So just when you are closing a manager deal, just make sure that you read everything through, and there's a clause where if they aren't performing certain duties or obligations that they have, certain thresholds, that you can break it. Obviously, you can't give them crazy numbers. Your peak expectations, but that's just some good advice so you don't get tied into somebody who isn't working for you in the long term. So we're going to kick into the next section. Where should I distribute my music?
Well, nowadays, it's a lot of options for distribution for independent artists. You know, you got companies like DistroKid, CD Baby, TuneCore, where they can actually distribute your record to a lot of the popular stores like Amazon, Tidal, Apple Music, Spotify to get you out there. So when it comes to distribution, those are 3 of the companies that I recommend for independent artists. Of course, they all have like different rates and percentages, but you can research that online. But the main ones that I'm very knowledgeable of and familiar with, DistroKid, CD Baby, and TuneCore.
Okay, guys. So where should you distribute your music? The easy answer to that is everywhere. You need to be on every platform. You need to be on every mixtape site if you're a rap artist. You need to be everywhere you possibly can, SoundCloud, YouTube, everywhere. You want to reach the fans wherever they go to discover music when you're brand new, right? You don't necessarily want to force people to check you out on Spotify or to check you out at Apple Music or SoundCloud. You want to be everywhere. So I believe that there are a lot of distributors out here that are great. There's TuneCore and DistroKid that pay you 100% of the income from your music. And then there's a bunch of distributors out here that do 80-20 splits where they pay you 80% of the money. They keep 20%. In exchange for that, they collect the money for you. They help you get on playlists sometimes. They'll help you get like on the front page of iTunes and Apple Music when you release. And then it's up to you to get on the mixtape sites and on YouTube. Some distributors will upload you to YouTube, but you want to make sure that you do as much of the work as possible just so that it's there and it's correct.
Alright, definitely, those are good tips as far as distribution. I mean, I would say, I agree, get it out everywhere you can. I mean, obviously, you can push certain platforms harder, but it can't hurt to be there. So anyways, the next question is, how can I grow my YouTube and make money there?
How can I grow my YouTube and make more money there? I'm a big fan of YouTube. They don't pay a lot, but I'm a big fan of YouTube because I know that that's the #1 site where fans discover music and rap. So YouTube is extremely important. The way you grow your YouTube channel is you put on content that people want to see. You do some promotional campaigns to drive fans to your YouTube page to discover you on YouTube so that when they get there, they see your incredible content. And I think it would be a really good idea to do a campaign to get people to subscribe so that there's a little bell icon on YouTube. And every time you upload something, anyone that has hit that bell when they've just subscribed will be notified that you've uploaded. So the second you upload something to YouTube, your fans can be notified, which is a wonderful thing.
And I would say, just to wrap up the YouTube and the monetization part, make sure you set up for AdSense and enable all your YouTube videos for AdSense monetization. That's a real important part of it. I mean, if you aren't set up to receive royalties, then you won't get them. So just make sure you take those steps. And also, I mean, like Wendy said, I mean, drive people to subscribe. So you might do a contest. If you subscribe, I'm giving a free sweatshirt away to everyone that, or to a random person that subscribes to my YouTube and posts a picture, something like that. Do creative things to grow your numbers in the way that you need to. So anyways, the next question is, when should I charge for features?
You should charge for features when you're in demand. I mean, it's simple as that. I mean, when you're in high demand, you'll know. You know, people constantly hitting you up. You got a record buzzing online, the radio, the streets, whatever it is. And it's just something that happens organically. So that's when I feel like you should charge for features. But you shouldn't be charging for features, especially demanding a higher price, when it's not even going to be beneficial to another artist who's going to come just like you. You will know by the level of the buzz.
When should you charge for features? You should charge for features as soon as you have enough of a buzz in the marketplace where people are coming to you and asking, what do you charge for features? Start affordably. What I do with my clients is we go into different areas where my artist needs promotion and doesn't have a large fan base. We find out whoever the hottest artist is in that area, and we usually do a song. And then we sort of swap out promotion where my client will promote back in wherever they're from, whatever city they're from, and the artist in that area will promote in that area. It's kind of a win-win so that you're doing songs together. You don't charge for that because you're sort of being paid by the promotion and the awareness. But you'll know when it's time to charge for features because people will start offering you money to get on the record. Your phone will start ringing. You'll start by charging a little bit, maybe $500 to do a feature. And when people start saying yes a lot to the $500, it's time to go up to $1,000 or $1,500. It really depends on how hot you are. Remember, people are featuring you because they're trying to gain eyeballs for themselves. So when you're hotter than they are, they're going to be willing to pay for that.
So that basically breaks it down. I mean, I wouldn't. I don't know. I see a lot of artists online. They're like, "Oh, I don't do this for free. I charge for my features, etc." I mean, it's about if you're in demand and people are asking for features, you can definitely sell them. But also don't turn away features just because you want to check every time. That would be a bad practice. Like it was mentioned, sometimes it's good to be able to build people in other markets. If it's someone in your town, the feature might not benefit you. But if you live in Boston and you can get a feature with the artist in Atlanta who's going to promote it, it might help you. If you can get a feature with the artist in Chicago that's going to promote it, it might help you. So just cross-reference like that, or cross-promotion like that is the way it would benefit you. Without, I mean, a paid feature, but obviously you want that bread. So, and yeah, as the demand goes up, you can keep up in the price. So anyways, the next question is, how can I begin to start making money off of merchandise? So I will let that roll in.
You start making money off of merchandise. We started with Trouble doing pop-up shops. Once we got him hot and we got his buzz popping in Georgia, Alabama, and South Carolina, we started doing pop-up shops. So we would purchase merchandise and we would take it out on the road with us whenever we went. We would sell it at shows, and then in the areas where he had a good following, we would pick a Saturday afternoon and we would do a pop-up shop. We did them in Atlanta a couple times at Fly Kicks, which is a sneaker store here in Atlanta that has a really good reputation and that people seem to love. And we did pop-up shops for 4 hours. We paid a percentage of all the sales to Fly Kicks, and we kept the rest. And then we also have a website for his merchandise that we set up through Shopify. And the great thing about Shopify is they make it really easy for you to have a store online. I'm a big fan of Shopify. When you're first starting out, you can use a company like Zazzle or Cafe Press or Printful, and you attach it to your Shopify store and they drop ship the product. You put the logos where you want them and you supply them with your finished artwork. They print the t-shirts or the hats or the water bottles or whatever it is, and they ship for you. They take a larger portion of the proceeds, but you don't have to worry about shipping t-shirts out to your fans. And, you know, for us, that's how we started, because we didn't want to spend 20 minutes in line 3 times a week at the post office to send out packages to folks. And it was worth that extra split to not have to worry about it.
And just to recap on that, one good thing Wendy mentioned is pop-up shops. So a couple of recommendations. I can only really think of a couple in the Boston region right now, but like Laced and Kush Groove are some great Kush Groove, sorry, and Laced are some great stores in the Boston area. And I'm sure, I mean, if you talk to people like them and say you want to do a 2-hour merchandise thing, I mean, those are actively places that bring in artists, the bigger artists when they're in town doing tours and stuff like that, and support the hip-hop industry already. I mean, obviously you have to have buzz within the market to do a pop-up store, but I mean, the other thing I would say with merchandise that kind of ties into the pop-up stores is limited edition clothing. So look at what Michael Jordan has done with his shoe brand. I mean, they put out 100 different so many different models, and if you put out small supplies of something, people are more likely to buy it because it's in demand and you can't get a lot of it. So for example, as an artist, if you were to make like 4 t-shirt designs throughout the year and say I'm only making 50 of these, I mean, if people know that they have to get it during that time frame and they can never get it, you have to stick true to these principles too. Then they're more likely to buy it. Obviously you can have your generic stuff that just has your normal brand and logo and all that, but yeah, I would say definitely the limited edition runs, which can help you monetize merchandise a lot more effectively. And the next one, is how can I make money off of social media? Was he able to break into that? Did you see it?
That's not something that we really focus on for the artists that I consult. We do have SoundCloud Pro accounts. We do have AudioMac Pro accounts. Of course, all the streaming platforms, Pandora, you know, we make money off of Spotify, Apple, anywhere that we can possibly make money. But in terms of Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, as of today, we don't make money off of that unless we offer influencer advertising. For example, Trouble has 350,000 followers on Instagram. So if he were looking to make money as an influencer, he could possibly sell a brand access to his followers, and they would pay him for that. We don't actually do that, but he certainly could if he wanted to. He's got enough followers at this point to do that. We're still at a point, though, where we spend money on social media. We do Twitter ads, we do Facebook ads, we do Instagram ads, we do Google ads, YouTube ads. It's a great way for us to reach the potential fans of the artists that we work with, and they're relatively inexpensive, the ads, and the reach is great, and the return on investment is great. So we look at social media more as a promotional platform or promotional tool than we look at it as a way to make income.
So anyways, yeah, I'm going to add on to what Wendy said. How can I make money off social media? So, I mean, one big thing is one client that we work with, Zay Hill Figure, who did Juju on that beat. I'm not going to drop the name of the brand yet, but my business partner Sheik is finalizing a shoe deal. First of all, I have to say shout out to Sheik, my business partner who runs all our Los Angeles operations. But anyways, they're closing a shoe deal, and he's getting a good amount for a 3-month shoe contract with a major brand, and it's for like 1 YouTube post and 3 Instagram posts. So once you build your numbers up, there's the people that are going to pay you to do. I mean, just for that. Sorry, I'm kicking the table. Other ways to make money, I feel social media is really just to push your merchandising, to push your music. But again, just don't make social media all about posting your music links. So anyways, the next section is final 2 questions here. Should I still sell physical CDs?
Should I still sell physical CDs? Well, we always press up a small amount of CDs so that we can take them around with us. We don't necessarily put them in stores anymore. Almost 70% of rap music is consumed by streaming. Downloads and CDs still do exist, but they're both a dying market. They're declining, and they're declining pretty quickly. But we don't want to exclude anyone who wants to support our music. We certainly give away more CDs for free than we do sell them. We give them away to bootleggers in any of the major cities that are on our target market list. And we do that because we're not trying to make money at first. We're trying to build the buzz of the artist. And then once the buzz is popping, we find that the money follows. Show money comes first, then streaming money, and then the merchandise money.
Alright, so yeah, I pretty much agree with what Wendy said on that. I mean, I would say artists always should have CDs on hand, though. Like an example, last night we were at the pre-show for the awards, and like a group Old Boy performed, and they said, we got CDs if anyone wants to buy one. Like, I fucked with their music, so I bought one. I had never seen them perform before. Someone just recommended them to me, so I put them on the event. But yeah, that's a great example. Like, they did it good because they did it right at the end of their set. They said, does anyone want to buy any CDs? I mean, there's a lot of artists that can still push them in the streets as well. So, yeah, and we're going to wrap this up. Our final question is any do's and don'ts and final words.
Final words, just get your hustle on. You know, a lot of artists complain about not having the resources and the money. But if you grind, constantly stay out there, you will eventually make money and meet people. And, you know, it's one of them things where I always say your income is the result of a hustle. Your income is the result of your hustle, what I meant to say. But that's pretty much what I can say for the most part. Cue the question, SKE Records. Big shout out to the New England Hip Hop Awards.
Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm really happy to be part of this. Shout out to New England Hip Hop Awards. I think it's really great that you guys are offering this knowledge to folks, I think one of the most important things you can do in this industry, aside from making great music, is to learn how the music industry works. Because if you learn how it works, then you can put together a blueprint that will lead to success. There are a lot of artists out here. There's a lot of oversaturation. You really need to build a buzz, whether you're trying to get signed to a record label or whether you're trying to stay independent. But you're doing the right thing by being here and learning as much as you can. Tune into my YouTube page. It's youtube.com/thisiswendyday. There are over 100 free videos there about different aspects of the music industry and how to do different stuff. They're free. Enjoy them. That's why they're there. And thanks again for tuning in. Peace.
Alright, so I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I just want to summarize this. This is something we're going to do yearly with the New England Hip Hop Awards. Obviously, every artist can't get nominated. Every artist can't win an award. But this is more than about just recognizing the top artists. This is a weekend where New England Hip Hop is going to come together and build stronger every single year. I mean, these business seminars are going to be able to help people elevate through the levels. I mean, even certain things like we're teaching you how to get your music placed in TV and movies and stuff like that, to certain things of, I mean, how to get paid off your radio spins. I mean, there's plenty of Boston FM radio shows that spin the stuff, and you get the monetization off of that. Things like I just gave you for the merchandise, rather than putting out 2 different shirts, do those limited edition runs where you only will sell 30 of that one shirt. You just have to be creative, and I have to finish with saying there's no cookie cutter strategy for any artist. You gotta have your own game plan. You gotta be unique, and you gotta I mean, you really gotta stand out. I see a lot of people still, they just be spamming out links. I mean, they do videos where all their boys jumping around. You can't do that. As an artist, number one, you have to break a record to get noticed. I mean, that's facts. But number two, it's about your personality and whether the fans fuck with you or not. So anyways, I want to give a big thanks again to Alex, NEX Videos. Definitely, I mean, he's the one sitting right next to me doing all the edits right here. So I'll give him his 5 seconds to shine at the end right here. And again, shout out, thank you for Cloud9. And for those of you tuning in live, we're also going to be live later tonight, the New England Hip Hop Awards. We'll get Millie's, Terminology, Kyle Bent, Acrobatic, who just joined us, is co-hosting with Chrissy Briscato. And we get a lot of surprises in store. So everyone tune in next year for even more seminars with more people. We're going to do it on a much larger scale. And share this with another artist that can use this information as well. Thank you.